Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first meeting of the Grounds and Environmental Services Committee for this year. I'm going to start off the proceedings. I believe I have to read a little something about the meeting being filmed. So, the council meeting in December 2021 agreed the following to be read out by chairman at all meetings being filmed for broadcasting recording purposes. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be filmed by the council and broadcast live on the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. If you are seated in the chamber, it is likely that the cameras will capture your image. By your presence, you are deemed to consent to be filmed and to the use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and or training purposes. If you address the committee, your contribution will be recorded and broadcast unless this is during a period where the meeting is in private session, as permitted by the access to information provisions. As the chairman of this meeting, I can, at my discretion, terminate or suspend filming if, in my opinion, continuing to do so would prejudice the proceedings of the meeting, or if I consider that continued filming might infringe the rights of any individual or breach any statutory provision. So, going on from there, I'm going to start with apologies for absence.
We have apologies from Councillor Butler and Councillor Tamara. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. And does anyone have any specific declarations of interest for any of the items this evening? No, I'm going to take that as a no. Next on the agenda is to agree the minutes of the meeting of 13th of March 2023 as a true record. Copies previously circulated. May I have a proposer? Thank you.
Happy to propose.
Thank you very much, Liz.
Which is second.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gurney. So I will now sign the meeting minutes. Does everyone agree with that? That's a vote. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone opposed? No. Brilliant. I will initial and sign the meetings now. Done. Fantastic. So, next item on the agenda is Creasy Park Community Football Centre and Bennett Splash Park Information Report.
Sorry, Chair, we need to do item 4 first.
Did I? Oh, okay. I apologise. It's my first day. Item 4 is to receive the minutes of the meetings of the planned subcommittee meetings held on 7th of March, 28th of March, 18th of April, and 2nd of May, 2023. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each meeting. I'm not going to go through each item, but if anyone has any comments or any questions on those specific items, then please raise your hand and you can speak. So first off is the meeting of Tuesday, 7th of March, 7 p.m. Does anyone have any comments or any questions? No? Brilliant. Next up is Tuesday, 28th of March at 7 p.m. That's pages 5 and pages 6 and 7. Does anyone have any questions? Comments? No? Fantastic. Next is Tuesday, the 18th of April, 7 p.m. That's pages 8 and 9. Anyone have any questions or comments? No? Moving swiftly on. And the meeting of Tuesday, the 2nd of May at 7 p.m. That's pages 10 and 11. Does anyone have any questions or comments? No. Fantastic. Do we have a vote on receiving those minutes, or is that just, that's it? Okay, minutes received. Thank you very much. So now we get to item 5, Creasy Park Community Football Centre and Bennett's Splash Park Information Report. So I'm going to hand over to James for this one.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. Nice to see and meet new faces. So my name's James. Pitch bookings were already at 80%, and I'm sure we'll probably get near 100% again for summer pitch bookings, which is fantastic to keep the centre running and the income. Dunstable, impressive 4th in their league, and Dunstable, who do play in the league higher, in 13th, so they both performed very well. And special congratulations to across all the youth teams, which there's about 50 or 60, there was numerous ones that won leagues and cups, and so a lot of success at the centre. Is always very busy. Half terms at Creasy. We had more Luton Town hosting holiday camps. We had 4 days of festivals, which brought in 64 teams. That very good. It's excellent for the income and the secondary spend, and promoting football in the area. And we've just had May half term, which was more of the same. So it was a landmark year in some respects, in that it's, in terms of secondary spend, we exceeded £200,000 for the first time. Which impacted the income, and you'll see in the comparisons, I think month on month, apart from 1 or 2, we're exceeding where we did last. On income, but no, secondary spend trade has been very good, and I think I reported a few reports ago. That was very pleasing, and the year end, as a result of that, at the when we were budget setting, we were looking at a 13k deficit, but we actually brought in a 13k surplus, so 26k swing. Again, going to the poor weather conditions and disruptions and cancellations, both the loss of secondary spend, but the loss of pitch income was an extremely pleasing year to have. So we traded very well. So that was good end to the year, which then obviously gets put into the reserve account. Operation building update. As I was forecasting an end of year surplus, took an opportunity to improve Creasy Park and update it. So we're working to council's environmental policies and our own commitments at Creasy Park. We look to change a lot of the light bulbs to LED. So now across the site we're about 90% LED light bulbs, which includes all the floodlight, all of the pictures as well. And this year we'll look to make it fully LED compliant or serviced across the whole centre. We also did some really good decorating of the changing rooms to give a fresh new look. So been using some of that money there to do those improvements. Older People's Lunch Club continues to be very well attended, 27 to 30 each week, and they had a lovely coronation party that was put on social media and was very well received by the members. And Dunstable Town Football Club, in partnership with the NHS hospitals, had a very excellent football quiz night and fun day event attended by over 400 people. Good charity event held at the centre using the ATPs and the clubhouse for an evening quiz night too. Any questions on Creasy Park?
If I could start, I just want to say I want to echo the massive congratulations to AFC Dunstable ladies. That's absolutely fantastic news. I loved it. Also, with regards to 2.6 and more looking at Luton Town's good news, recent happy news, do we think that their inclusion into the Premiership is going to have a knock-on effect with regards to Creasy Park, do you think?
It could well do. What it will do is maybe for Luton Town, who run their holiday camps, they will certainly probably see an increase in parents wanting to send their children to Luton Town branded holiday camps because of Luton's entry into the Premiership. So, which will only benefit Creasy Park if their holiday camps are getting busier and their youth development teams are getting busier. Then they'll have hire more space on more occasions. So I can only see it as a positive benefit.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And I also want to say well done to you guys at Creasy Park for all the wonderful work that you do. And then I have Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chairman. Echo Matt's congratulations to everybody at Creasy Park for the fantastic work that you've done this year in continuing to build such a successful facility for the community of Dunstable. And it's a really important community facility that so many people and families rely on. So I'm really pleased to see that it continues to go from strength to strength. Just one question ahead of the summer holidays. Are we intending to do pay and play throughout the summer holiday period? If so, can we make sure that it is advertised and really, out there in plenty of time so people can plan their events for the summer? Because I know pay and play does get used quite a lot, doesn't it? It's a real get out of jail card really for a lot of the youngsters, and it's a relatively cheap session for them as well. So it'd be really good to see that continue, but extremely well done. And I was at the hospital event at the town, the football clubs and the hospital event, and it was so nice to see that the community coming together and different people that wouldn't normally have come to Creasy. Yet again, another group of people that haven't been to Creasy but hopefully now will return. So well done.
Thank you. In terms of play and play, yes, we will continue. So our objective is every half term or every school holiday, we aim to do play and play where we can. If we haven't got other bookings, there was a couple of days in this half term where we couldn't, but yes, we're planning to do it over the summer. It is extremely positive, popular, sometimes a bit too popular because it's a just turn up. So we're looking at different measures of maybe doing a morning session, afternoon session, but yes, it attracts a lot of people, a lot of youngsters, which is what we want to do. We want to bring them to the centre, and it's a good, easy childcare. But yes, we certainly will be running it, and we'll be putting out social media and promoting it, and we'll forewarn every day that we can't do it, but most days I'd imagine we will be able to, at some form. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, James. Do we have any other questions on Creasy Park? Councillor Reardon.
Thank you, Chairman. I just have one question with regards to item 4.1, where 90% of the lights are now LED, which is great news. Have you seen any reduction in electricity bills as a result? Just out of interest.
So we are, we're still waiting to get that information through, but because we've only just done it fairly recently, but that is something we do monitor we monitor monthly our kilowatt per hour usage, so it's something we'll be keeping an eye on, and in future meetings I'll be able to update on that, certainly, on comparisons.
Any other questions? No? James, if you'd like to continue.
Okay, so on to Bennett's Splash and the Splash Park. So the Splash Park is now opened on the 1st of May, and will be 7 days a week until Sunday the 3rd of September. Over the first few weeks, it's always a sort of quiet period while we open in the school term time, and we are seeing it's been, as per normal, very weather dependent, and the weather seems to be yo-yoing somewhat at the moment, but it's been well attended at weekends, and where the weather has been good, as I say, the Splash Park has been very well used. Bennett's Memorial Park has been very well attended. Our job is continually to attract people who are in park in to use the cafe, so we get that secondary spend from the cafe, but the cafe is picking up, and week on week we're increasing our trade. We had a good weekend this weekend. We've introduced party bookings. We've been taking party bookings, which has been helping with the where we provide a gazebo and some garden games. So we've taken a few of those in, which has been excellent. So it's all going well at the moment. We just want the weather to improve a bit. So we put in some new picnic benches that are being well used, that are static outside the cafe, and then we bought some extra parasols to create extra shade, so people can enjoy their food under the shade, which was some of the comments posted before we opened. And this week we've also commissioned the installation of 2 static 5 by 5 metre parasols, which will sit just in front of the cafe, and they hope to be fully installed within June. So there'll be another welcomed addition, and it makes it look used and open, and so looking forward to those being in place. I've reported we haven't had any parking issues, but I know there have been some subsequent parking issues. Should have put it in there. There have been some subsequent parking problems on Friday and possibly over the weekend. So I've contacted CBC's parking enforcement officers, so we can strike up a relationship where I can inform them of this is busy times, or these are times that you should come and walk the streets, because there's definitely parked cars that may be parked illegally or inconsiderately. We have produced flyers that's, again, when staff are able to go and post on the car windscreens, reminding them that there is parking at Ashton Square car park. On the flyer it states where the costs, where it is, and the free days, because there is numerous free days at Ashton Square, Wednesday afternoons, Saturday afternoons, all day Sunday, and bank holidays. So we do a lot of that promotion, and via social media we'll be putting out more posts, regular posts about parking at Ashton Square car park. And I've also tried to make contact with the local Kirby Road surgery, and trying to build a relationship with them again, where in the week where we're not so busy, some of, a limited number of their clients may use our town council car park in return of when they're closed on a Saturday afternoon and Sunday, our Splash Park users could use their car park. So we're doing all we can to ease any parking pressures on the local residents.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, James. Thank you for the report. I do have a question Do we see an increase of usage of the splash park on the days where there is free parking available next door? Is there any correlation or not?
Not really, no. It's just so weather dependent. If it's nice and sunny, they come out. It's not especially, no.
And I have a question first from Councillor Hollett.
Thank you, Chairman. During the last council, we did talk about the possibility of having some of the products from Priory House in the cafe to not only hopefully sell some more, but also to perhaps introduce Priory House to people that haven't been in there. Are we actually doing that?
We did do that at the end of last year so that when Priory House had its difficulties last year, we were doing that, and we did it the same as Creasy. So we haven't done it this year, but we certainly can do, and in Live Priory House we can certainly do that some more. So we did some small items, mince meats and teas and things like that, and some of the gift shop items. So more than happy to do that again, yes.
I think it would be useful if we did, and if it had any benefit last year, then one can build on that.
Sure, we didn't get huge. I don't think we sold many things, but we can certainly try. There's no problem trying, and I'm happy to do it, and I'll work with Lisa to put that in place.
Thank you very much. And I have Councillor Jones.
Thank you. Can I just ask, maybe for the next round of committee agendas, would it be quite good to see how many parties we've actually undertaken? Because this was something that I put forward in the last council, where we closed down on the 3rd of September and it's mothballed basically until May. We can't afford to mothball that facility. We need to come up with ideas on how we can actually make it work for us as a council throughout the whole year. So the parties was just one idea that we had, and it'd just be interesting to see exactly how many parties we've done and what a difference that's made. And equally, you know, it'd be good to do maybe some customer user experience feedback, certainly when the shades are up, and see whether we get some feedback on that. I don't think we've done any customer surveying for a year or two now. It might be good. I did notice on social media, I can't remember which page it was, I will find it and send you it, James. There was a link from a children's organisation. They'd listed all of the splash parks in Beds, Bucks and Hearts, and we were included in that, so we may generate seeing some footfall. It might be a good idea to try and again get the customers, you know, where have you come from to travel from today, just to see what the usage is and the reach. Because certainly, you know, I don't think Leighton Buzzards has been working. If it's working yet, it had problems. So we may be finding that we're getting extra footfall, and this weekend coming could be its real test for us. But again, a really good start to the year for the Splash Park.
Yes, happy to provide all of that feedback at the next report. It's good, yeah, no problem.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Councillor Jones. I have Councillor O'Riordan.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to comment on section 5.2 with the recycled plastic seating. Like, that's great, you know, that we're putting in recycled seating. I also just wanted to ask, and it may be a stupid question, where it says that parasol shades are available, does that mean they're fixed? Because I did hear you say something about them being static and customers can put them up, or do they have to go to the kiosk to get them? It's just, yeah, I'm just interested.
So within the picnic benches, they're ones that we take in and out each night. So if we look at, if customers can always ask, but it'll be on us, we will put them out. So we'll put them out every day. So I know sometimes they haven't, because it's today they wouldn't have done because there's no need for it. But where it's sunny, they'll put them in. The customers can then just put them up and down. But we'll fix them in place. But then subsequently we're getting two large. So they're just your sort of garden-sized parasols that we put in the picnic benches. But this week there'll be ground digging for two very large static ones that'll be up permanently, which will just stay up all year round.
I have one more, which is probably a really silly question. With the cost of living crisis, and it's more, is it a possibility? I wonder how many families can afford sun cream. And I know that some places have the dispensers where the local authorities, school, whatever it is, provides it, and I wonder if it is a possibility. Apologies if it's a silly question.
For us to provide free sunscreen, we do sell sunscreen. We
James, perhaps we could, I don't know, have a look at pricing that, like maybe having a look at the possibility of doing it.
What I could do is bring back to committee how much it is to bulk buy some sunscreen, what it might cost us, the impact on what it might have on the budget, and see whether it's an option that councillors want to put in place.
Back to Councillor Jones.
So I'm just thinking, I think where Louise is coming from, I think I've seen them actually. You know, like the hand sanitisers when you used to go in the shops and you just pump it. Maybe they do a sunscreen one. Don't know, they may or may not. But it might be worth just pricing one up to see how much. The only danger you've got, it would be very slippery if it got on the floor. Then you'd have to be really careful. But price it up and see.
One last comment. Is there any chance we can ensure that before the installation of the static parasols, if we can make sure that we broadcast that properly, so that people know that when we're building in the park, that we're doing it for their benefit and it's not people taking over the land or something?
Yes, yeah, as soon as there's work starts, I'll be taking pictures. One as the first digging of this is what we're doing, and then do some pictures, social media of a timeline of it happening. And at the same time, my plan is, I hadn't promoted the benches, but it's all to be as one. Look, we've done this, and this is what we're doing to combat the shade as much as we can. So yes, and I'll be using it as a marketing opportunity, certainly.
Thank you very much, James. Councillor Gurney.
Continuing from Councillor O'Riordan's point and James pricing up sun cream, by the time we come back to the next committee, it'll be September and the splash park will have closed. So unless we can get something together in the next couple of weeks or so, and then maybe put it to the chairman and the town clerk and the chief executive to maybe agree a price on that, I would suggest that's what we do.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally in order for members to agree to delegate to myself and James to make arrangements quickly if we can do, and then report back to you what we've done afterwards. So within budget, obviously.
Okay. Councillor Kenson-Gurney.
So with that, I think Louise's idea is absolutely excellent, and I propose a motion that we delegate the chairman and chief executive to make a decision on whatever price James comes up with.
Do we have a seconder for that?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Seconded. All in favour? Okay.
Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I think it's unanimous.
Yeah, don't confuse me.
I get one.
9, yes.
Wonderful.
Against.
Next up, Councillor Atwell.
Yeah, just on that point, I was just going to say I think we need a bit of consideration, seeing this is going to be the last time we get to discuss it. Whereabouts we actually put, if it does go ahead, will we do put this sunscreen container, because we want it somewhere it's going to be managed. I've got a feeling if you put it outside the shop area or somewhere, it's going to be quite a mess by the end of the day, and obviously there could be health and safety with being slippery and things like that, and obviously we've got to think about how that will contaminate the water as well for the splash park. So I think there's some considerations how it's used as well that we need to think about.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. I agree. I think it would need to be placed inside the cafe so we can have some management. That is my concern. When you put anything out, it just gets abused rather than used for the correct reason. So, yes, we'll look to have something where it'd be placed inside the cafe, certainly. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Thank you, James. Does anyone else have any other questions for James before we move on?
Can I just find, so I don't know if I introduced, so this is Hayley McKee. Hayley is the new Creasy Park manager. So I'll still be coming to do a lot of reports, but Hayley will be coming sometimes as well. And if I can't, she may step in at some point when she feels confident. But no, I just wanted to take the opportunity to introduce Hayley to councillors as well. So.
Welcome, Hayley. It's good to have you on the team. Okay, if there are any other questions? No? Okay, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is cemetery and allotments. It's the grounds information report, which is cemetery, allotments, recreation grounds, town centre gardens, and ranger service. We're going to go over to Mary for Dunstable Cemetery. Mary?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. It's lovely to meet you all. I'm Mary and I am the cemetery manager. So just to start with, the cemetery has a small volunteer group called the Friends of Dunstable Cemetery, and they meet on the first Tuesday and third Friday of the month. Their help is greatly appreciated. They carry out light grounds duties, so the maintenance team or the grounds team will have a little list of jobs for them all to do, and they also help with the clearing of some of the older graves in the cemetery. The council has recently completed some resurfacing works on the entrance into the main car park into the cemetery and the car park itself. We've got more planned tarmacking in the next few weeks and the replacement of some of the slabs, the paving slabs in the cemetery. The Green Flag judge visited the cemetery on the 26th of April for a full inspection. We have a full inspection 1 year and we have a mystery shop the following year. The results of the judging will be announced at an award ceremony in Peterborough on the 19th of July. We've also been fortunate in retaining our silver status for the ICCM. The ICCM being the Institute of Cemetery and Crematorium Management. We signed up to the charter in 2013. As the report says, the charter defines the rights of individuals, but also sets standards that members of the public and visitors can expect from us. The cemetery itself is set up into sections, and each section is identified by a letter. And in the coming weeks, we're having some wooden section markers placed at various points of each section so visitors can identify the areas that they wish to visit. The expenditure and income report is on Appendix 1, and we've had a positive variance of just over 30,000 for the year. Are there any questions regarding the cemetery? Okay, so...
Sorry, Mary.
So can I just to point out to members that the silver charter status we've achieved, we're the only town council in England that's achieved that status. There are some larger unitary and borough councils that have done that, so that is quite an achievement for Mary.
Wow, that's really impressive. Well done, Mary.
Oh, and the team.
And the team.
Just definitely the team.
Mary and the team. I have comments from Councillor Jones.
I was just going to congratulate Mary and the team for exactly that, for doing such a great job up there. And although those of us that went on the tour last week, it was recognised by the few of us that were there, actually what a great area that and space that is. Very, peaceful and tranquil when, you're going to visit a loved one's grave. And, a huge amount of work goes up there. And I believe the Friends are meeting tomorrow morning. And I'm planning on dropping by to see them because they want some gifts for their tombola, I believe. So I'm planning on dropping in before I come over here. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. I'll pass those comments on to the grounds team as well. Thank you. Moving on to allotments, just a couple of points with allotments. We have currently 286 people on the waiting list. We also carried out inspections on the 19th of July, and there were 75 notice to cultivate, and re-inspections took place on the 17th of May, where we had 6 notice to quits were issued. Are there any questions?
Yes, Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. So I visited the allotments up Meadway, I think, when I came last week, whenever it was. So just a couple of questions, really. I just wanted to ask whether the 75 notices was unusual or whether it's the same amount each year, and whether you know, because I think you do collect equality diversity information, or you used to, I don't know whether you still do, and whether there's any correlations between those people who you need to serve those notices on. I'm just thinking from a point of view whether people struggle for particular reasons and whether that's worth understanding a bit more about. And then my other question was, I just wondered when the last time the council had new allotments to add to its supply. And because I'm new, you may have talked about this lots of times, but you know, whether there's any possibility of increasing the numbers available. Thank you.
The 75 notice to cultivate is probably quite common, and it can be for a range of reasons, but nothing particular. They were mainly this time where people were just probably a little bit slower in starting to cultivate their plots. So we were just really wanting people to start doing something. So we would visit the plot and it would just be grass or it would be overgrown. There'd be no sign of any cultivation at all. But having issued those, they are then given 21 days to do something, and then we will revisit, and then based on that then we just had the 6 notice to quits. So most people, sometimes it's just a little bit of encouragement that they need to start working them. At the moment, we don't have any plans at the moment for any further sites at the moment that I'm aware of.
Coming back, John?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The council's corporate plan does include for a new allotment site at Downside, potentially, subject to having sufficient funding. But in answer to your question, most of the sites that we've got, the 6 across the town, were created around the kind of 1930s and 40s, and you haven't had anything new since that period. So you could probably get 16 to 24 allotments into the Downside recreation ground, but that's something that we'll need to consider doing in the future. So.
Thank you very much, John. Do we have any other questions for Mary? I have to say, I also visited Westfield allotments at the weekend and spoke to a few of the people there, and they were all quite happy with, not to blow our own trumpet, but I had very few complaints from the users of the allotments, so I'd say very well done for what we're doing. When we issue the 75 notices, the first notice to cultivate, do we, is part of that notice sort of the offer of advice as well, with regards to like what you have to do and how to do it? I mean, or a call to whether anyone needs any help, as in advice for what they're doing?
When we issue the notice to cultivate, in that notice itself there isn't really any guidance, but we do give people the opportunity to speak to us, and if there's a reason why they've not been able to cultivate, then we are willing to listen to that and give them extra time. I hope to be working with Kathy in the future with regards to putting together perhaps a document or a little plan that we can give to new tenants as they take on the allotments, which will give them tips and guidance about how to manage the allotments.
That's a very good idea. Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. I think, because I should say that I've got an allotment. I won't say where unless you want me to, but I have got allotment. So I think I'm mindful of the other times you were telling me last week about the amount of effort that goes into following up with people. I think there's quite a high threshold in terms of the expectations on allotment owners. I can't remember exactly what it says, but it expects pretty much every single part of the allotment to be cultivated all at once. So I'm wondering whether, well, I'll ask you whether you think that is a very high benchmark for most people who are allotment holders to reach, and so that it's likely that most people at some point won't have 100% of their allotment cultivated, and whether that's causing an additional amount of work or expectation and causing any problems.
I mean, there are tenants that will only work part of the allotment, but we are happy to speak to them and approach them about whether they want to reduce the size. So we're willing to make a whole into a half or a half into a quarter. So we are happy to have those discussions with the tenants, and that is a need that we identify when we actually do the inspections.
And I think it's fair to say there's a difference between not cultivating your whole allotment and letting half of your allotment go to weed and creating an issue for other allotment holders, or just covering it and leaving it and not using it. I think that'd probably be the difference with.
Councillor Atwell.
Yeah, my query is, obviously we've got 286 people waiting on the waiting list. I just wanted to know how we evaluate that waiting list and how much we update it. Is it a case of that somebody applies for one and then just waits X amount of years to be able to be allocated, or, you know, are we purposely following up on these people to make sure they still want one, or they do, you know, if they apply for one and they're expected to then pull out if they don't want it? Just wondering how accurate the figure is of the want and need.
Okay, so most requests that we receive to be added to the waiting list are done via the website. So as we receive a notification, they will then be added to the list. We review the list twice a year, and we make contacts with all of those on the waiting list to see if they still wish to remain on the waiting list. But we do give them an indication at that time of where they are on the list and how long they can expect to be waiting. Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. If anyone has any other questions? No? Good stuff. Thank you very much, Mary, for all your hard work. And the team. Next up, we've got recreation grounds. I'm going to go to Dimmy.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, member. My name is Dimi. I am the grounds operations manager, and I will be talking about the recreation grounds, sport pitches, town ranger service, and the town centre management. Starting with recreation grounds, play areas, skate parks, and BMX track. Since the last report, we had one incident of vandalism to a play equipment, which is a self-closing gate at Ridgeway Avenue play area. This has been vandalized twice, but we still decided to replace it, and if it happens again, then might need to consider an alternative options, as the replacement is quite costly, and it's seemingly that's the only location where it get vandalized. Next item is the new outdoor gym equipment has been installed, both Olma Road and Downs Road. This was partially funded by CBC Ward Councillor grant, and the only outstanding item is on the signage, which is under consideration and where to locate it, but this will be done shortly. The new play equipment, which was agreed by the committee at last committee meeting, has been installed. On the skate park, regular maintenance is carried on by a contractor. And on the last item, 3.5, the fencing, the new boat of fencing at French's Avenue, the works has started today. So most likely will be finished by end of this week. Any question around recreation grounds?
I have a quick question. On our travels in our councillor induction, we saw that the signs for Luton Road, what was Luton Road Recreation Ground, are due to be changed. Do we have a timescale for that?
Chair, when councillors approved the change of name, they decided that they weren't necessarily in a massive hurry to then change everything associated with that. So it's being done by degrees. The next time that we do any major refurbishment of the signage in our parks and open spaces, we'll then include that as well. Okay. I would say sometime over the next 8 to 12 months, probably.
Councillor Gurney?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, exactly as John says, there was no rush because it has been called both. So if it drifts towards the fish line, that's fine. The second thing is there was one resident who was incensed about the fitting of play equipment to what I call Crosses Field. You don't call it Crosses Field, you call it Downs Road Park. One resident was very upset. I don't know if there's anything we can do about one resident, but she hadn't been informed the equipment was going in. It was put there one day and then fitted over the next few days. If she'd perhaps been told with a little note to the door, play equipment is being fitted to, or some notice. It's just something to take on board. I don't think there's anything to do about it, but I'm just raising an issue for one particular resident.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gurney. That's something for us to learn from, I guess, is that if we're doing any work in any of our parks, it's good to try and let people know as much as possible, so that there's no complaints. Okay, moving on, Dimmy.
Yeah.
Oh, so sorry. I missed you guys.
Okay.
It's my first day. Councillor Outlaw.
I'll say that next time.
No, I was going to say
Yeah, just a couple of questions. On note 3.3, you said about the new play equipment that's now being installed in Mentmore. I think that it just relates to the one turning item that was obviously quite heavy maintenance, I guess. So they've reverted to something that's smaller and a lot more easy to manage. Is there any wider scope or project to increase some of the play equipment in the park, in the recreation ground there as well? Because I know a lot of my residents around have been asking for a bit more age specific, because it's very limited, and I just wondered if there's any longer term plans for upgrading or installing additional equipment there.
Chair, yeah, we brought a report to committee about 3 or 4 years ago about the condition of the playgrounds, and recognised that there was a huge amount of funding that would be required if we were to try and upgrade all of our play equipment. So we're tending to do it a little bit by stealth, in as much as, maybe stealth's not quite the right word, but do it in a much more managed way when we get Section 106 funding or grant funding opportunities come available. So, for example, we could hopefully upgrade the play equipment in Grovehurst Gardens with some additional equipment off the back of Section 106 funding from the Ashton School development. And that tends to be how we fund things. But it might be something that you want to consider actively thinking about in the next iteration of your corporate plan, and it's up to you in terms of whether you want to include that in the future. But there are no plans at the moment, no.
Councillor Jones?
Thanks. I was just, my comment was around we need to consider that for the future, so that we can make sure our aspirations for all of our parks and open spaces over the next 4 years hopefully can be addressed. And I'll wait to make my comment about the Muga when we get to that part.
Sorry, yeah, there's a couple of other little things I just wanted to ask was regarding point 3.5, obviously we're talking about the new metal
2 seconds. Sorry, I just want to check because Councillor O'Riordan was asking about the last issue.
Oh, sorry, okay.
It's okay.
Just
carry on.
continuation.
I'll wait.
Okay, cool. Carry on.
Yeah, we mentioned about the new metal bow-top fencing that's been ordered for the French's Avenue. I understand that I've been chatting for some time now to Kathy regarding the fencing, chain link fencing sits in the situation in Mentmore. I understand that obviously that was through CBC and 3 estimates had been sought. I just wondered if there had been any sort of progress on that front.
So the fencing that's being dealt with at French's Avenue is using Section 106 funding that was specifically set aside for French's Avenue when it was developed. And the fencing at Mentmore, there are 2 sections of fencing. One is in our ownership and one isn't. The one between the Farmer's Field and Mentmore Recreation Ground itself, along the line of the new hedge, Kathy had got quotations for because it's our fence to replace if we wish to do so. We had hoped that it would secure a CBC grant funding alongside the grant funding that we got for the hedgerow planting and the various projects that they've supported there, but they decided not to support that. So we haven't got any plans at the moment to do that. That's something that we can look at again. The fence that is around the Farmer's Field that I think you've raised with Kathy previously is a Central Bedfordshire Council fence, and therefore Kathy signposted that need to Central Bedfordshire Council, and I think she's chased them up as well. Hopefully that clarifies the situation.
Any more questions?
One more thing, but
Go.
Louise wants to go in first.
No, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. My last point was obviously with the hedgerows that we planted in Mentmore. There's a considerable amount of work there done, and it's been very much appreciated. But in the past few weeks, it has become very sort of overgrown with a lot of weeds and things like that. I do go down there because I live literally opposite it and try and do what I can and put any sticks back that any kids pulled out and things like that, and make sure that it's kept as nice as possible. But it is quite a big stretch, and obviously the weeds and things have really quite overgrown it now. I've got a couple of pictures I'll show you, John, after the meeting if you like. But also I was a bit concerned, obviously, because they're very young plants. Obviously we've had quite a dry spell now. It looks like they really do need a water, so we could get a water bowser down there or something. That would be good. Otherwise, we need to protect the investment we've already made.
Good evening, members. My name's Kathy Doyle. I'm the Parks and Green Space Development Officer. With regard to the hedgerow, actually what we've been recommended to do by the Woodland Trust is to not water the hedgerow and allow the plants to see if they can acclimatise to the conditions, and particularly at the moment because they've been so variable. So at the moment I'm going to follow that advice and actually not water. I mean, it does mean holding our nerve, but apparently the young whips develop more strongly if you allow them to acclimatise. So we're going to do that unless we get an extreme weather event like we did last year. With regard to the weeding, I'm planning to have 2 sort of volunteer days, one actually for the tiny forest and another one for the hedgerow, where I've got a number of names of volunteers where we can kind of go and do a sort of a mass weed. And then when it comes to dealing with regular acts of vandalism, then the rangers or some of the grounds team will go up and kind of redress some of those things. I know we've had some vandalism up there, so we just try and sort of keep on top of it that way. I hope that answers some of your questions.
Yeah, that's great, Kathy. Obviously keep me involved with the dates and you do with those things, and I'll gladly come along and volunteer, and I'll probably get a few of the residents to do the same thing, so just keep let us know. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Kathy. That's a very comprehensive answer. Thank you. And finally, Councillor Reardon.
Thank you, Chairman. Dimi, my question was to you with regards to Grove Skate Park. I've got two items actually. One of our local residents has contacted me twice to find out if it would be possible to have some kind of timetable at the skate park whereby there's time set aside for smaller children to use it. It's a really heavily used facility, and it's well used. The people that use it are really, really friendly, and I think they might be open to that. She likened it to a skate park in St Albans that has some system like this already, because sometimes there can be a lot of bigger users that are dashing around, and the little children maybe can't use it. So she asked if that would be a possibility. I'll let you maybe answer that first.
Yes, thank you for the question. I think we can certainly look at some sort of signage which we could install as part of the existing signage there, and then hopefully it would help the users to be considerate with each other. We don't have any enforcement power such as to enforce it, no resource, unfortunately, to send somebody, but definitely a signage is something we could look into.
Thank you. And her other suggestion was that maybe some of the skating teachers that like to teach there might want to sponsor such signage and maybe have their details on there. I don't know, I guess it's a bigger conversation. But yeah, even if it's just a sign to say that perhaps on a Saturday morning between 9 and 12, could you just allow this space for younger users? And yeah, not enforceable, but she asked me to raise it, so I'm raising it. And thank you for your answer. My second question is with regards to the skate park again, Grove Skate Park, and the lack of toilet facilities in that area. I live very close to the skate park. I walk through it a couple of times a day, and I have myself seen people using the bushes to go to the toilet. They don't have anywhere else to go. There was a suggestion that when the hub opened, the new hub, the integrated hub for the doctors and dentists, etc., that perhaps they might be able to use that. But that's not open all of the time, and I don't know how they would welcome that. I guess it's probably more a question for Central Bedfordshire Council, because the surrounding area is land owned by them and we just rent the skate park land. But I just wonder if it's a conversation that could be had, because at the moment they are toileting in the bushes and that's not very sanitary. Thank you.
Yes, as you said, it's a CBC asset. I'm sure there is, in certain level, there can be conversation around it. And as you members who are CBC members also can influence it. And we are very happy as officers to make discussion and how can I help each other.
Any more questions on this item? Nope. Dimi, if you'd like to carry on. Oh, no. Councillor Kenson-Gurney.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to take that concern up to CBC and see if some permanent toilet facilities can be made available in the area, because that's a genuine concern. And that's something that should have been thought about when it was built. But we'll take that to CBC and see what they say.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Kenson-Gurney. Any other questions, comments? No. Dimi, if you'd like to carry on.
Yes, thank you very much. If I may move to sport pitches and general grounds maintenance. The grass cutting season has begun and well underway. The football season has completed, has got to the end. The team has almost finished the pitch renovation works at Creasy Park, and once this is done, they start moving and continuing on our other recreation grounds. The planning application for the Kickabout Muga has been submitted and validated by CBC, and according their planning portal, we can expect an answer by the 13th of July. I checked it today, there was no objection at the moment, so I think it's all good.
Councillor Liz Jones.
Thank you. Just on part of the Muga facility and the refurbished play area, I understand we've made the order for the refurbished play area and we're hoping to install that ahead of the Muga actual installation, which is fantastic news. My only concern would be, can we try to do that outside of the school holidays so that the play area is available for the school holidays? Is that going to be feasible? What timeline are we working to? If it's not feasible, can we at least advertise the fact that we will be refurbishing during the school holidays, so at least families can again address where they want to take their young ones for that time, because that park is heavily used and it is becoming more and more, you know, a place to come and have a picnic and actually spend longer time in. So I'm just a little bit concerned that we're so close to school holidays. If we're refurbing play areas, let's try to do it outside of school holiday if we can, please.
Right, so the play equipment has been ordered, and the company who will be installing them, they're supposed to receive it by end of June. So, and from that moment, they would be able to start. Last time when we spoke to them, they said about 4 to 5 weeks. So I think it would be still just the beginning of the school holiday season. They could still complete the refurbishment of the new playground. So that would be still at least 5 to 6 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks school holiday when the families and the local resident could use that. But we will be on it 100% to make sure it happened ASAP.
Again, I know we keep going on about it, but the importance of making sure the residents know what's coming and the timeline, and making sure there's the before photos, the during, the installation, and of course the after. You know, we'll be celebrating the whole park refurb once the Muga's in as well, I'm sure, in a certain way, but just please keep the residents and park users informed of the changes that are happening.
Thank you, Liz. Councillor Kensingoni.
I know we usually use it in the centre of town and for roadwork issues, but hopefully we're not having a big festival of roadworks this year, although I have heard of one. Could we use the mobile sign? And I wonder if getting a couple of sandwich boards that we could put in the park by the gates to tell everyone we're going to be doing it, be really clear with the residents, makes a big difference.
Yes, so I think once we know for sure the starting date, it will be very well advertised by the company themselves and with our internal communication, so we can manage the expectation of the local residents. So that's not an issue. We just don't want to promise something which we don't know 100%, but once, yes, absolutely 100%.
Thank you, Demi. I will also say that all of us sitting at this table have a job, and the whole reason we're here in the first place is to be a communication conduit between the two groups, the council and the residents. So when we see stuff on the internet, when we see stuff on Facebook that the council is putting out, if we can all share and like that and make sure that we do our part. We're putting a lot of emphasis on all the officers, and we have done quite a few times tonight to make sure that stuff is publicised. That is part of our job. So if we can all make sure that we do that too, that'd be great. Anyone, any other questions? Councillor O'Riordan.
Sorry, just to follow on from your point, Chairman, with regards to social media posts, I wonder if we could receive copies of them by email, links to them, so that we can share them as soon as they come out.
That would be quite tricky because we do so many across all our services. I think the easiest way is for you to follow each thing we do and then just see it come up and repost as it comes through. We're going to try and send you out every 2 or 3 weeks all the press release, all the key press releases we've sent out, so you'll have that. But the way social media works is it's just quick. So by far the best way for you to do it is to have a Facebook and Instagram account that you think is appropriate, and just click and repost, and that's the easiest. Because we'll be doing several things every day, so your inbox will get very full if we did that.
Would you like to come back, Councillor
Sorry,
Reardon?
yes. So I do this myself, and I will just put several links within one email to all different posts and media sites. However, we can have a conversation about it another day. But yeah, I don't always get alerts for the posts that come up, but maybe I'm doing something wrong, so I'll look at that too. Thank you.
Councillor Jones, you wish to come back?
Just on your point, absolutely, Matt. Those of us that have got active Facebook pages, if we like and follow the council's services, get my teeth back in, we should at some stage during the day or evening, or 2 or 3 days later. Doesn't need to be on the day, does it? As long as we should actively see those and just share them from that. I wouldn't want to ask the officers to be collating a list of social media posts that they've done during the working day. Like Paul says, they could be there all day, and the officers have got other things that they need to be doing as well. As it's no one person's job. Those posts are done from across various teams. It's not done from one central port at the moment. So I think we just, as you say, we need to all take a little bit of responsibility. But what I would say is share the posts from the council. Don't try to create your own, because that way we don't run the risk of putting incorrect dates, times, etc. And we're sharing the one version of the truth. And I'm a great believer of one version of the truth.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Moving on. If there are no other questions on sports pitches and general ground maintenance. Dimi, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the town ranger service. The rangers continuously taking on their good service across the whole town, in addition to their routine maintenance activities. Any question on or comment on the town ranger service before I move on?
Councillor Jones.
Sorry, I feel like it's a bit of a Councillor Jones session. Just want to say a huge thank you to the rangers. Members of the public were raising concerns that the benches outside the Yum Yum area were heavily populated with bird poo. So I literally messaged them. This shows you how much you can actually use social media. I messaged the town rangers. I believe it was probably out of what I thought was out of hours, ready for the next day. And I got a message back 2 or 3 hours later to say, we've cleared them, we've done them. They were still out working and they've cleared them. So straight away, but that's the good news story that I'd like to see us publicising on the town rangers page. Residents stated, this, we've gone out and reacted, we've done. I know it all takes time, but that's really good news story that we've reacted on the back of the residents' comments. So if you do see stuff, feel free to message the rangers. They do act where they can, but obviously they have got their long list of to-dos as well. So, but please thank them, Dimmy.
I most certainly will pass it to them. Thank you. Moving to the next item, town centre. Bedding plants and floral display will be delivered sometimes this week, next week. So you will notice that TRT planters, hanging baskets, and pole planters. Work is currently ongoing to finalize the agreement with CBC to take over responsibility of the herbous planters and rain gardens. This is imminent, so anytime can happen that we get a contract and then we will be looking after. Seasonal in Grove House Garden and Priory Garden, the seasonal works are ongoing in preparation for in bloom judging, and the planting works of the new 6 perennial beds has been ongoing and almost completed. In terms of green flag judging, we had the green flag judging in Dunstable Cemetery, and we are expecting the judges in Bennett on the 29th of June. Any question?
Councillor Hollett.
Thank you. Yes, it has been a long time that CBC has taken to come to a decision on looking after the herbis planters, etc. given the work that needs to be done that I've heard about, in other words, complete refurbishment of these planters, because nothing's been done by Central Beds over the period of the last year, are we satisfied there's going to be enough time before the judges come round for Anglia in Bloom?
Thank you, Dimmy. Thank you, Chair. It is a tight timescale, and it is very frustrating that we submitted that price to Central Bedfordshire some time ago, and it took them quite a while to get to the point. They have contacted us and asked us to provide them with a price to refurbish the planters and replant, and we're busy working on that at the moment. I hope that we will be able to do so, but our hands are a little bit in the hands of Central Beds, I'm afraid. We are prepared to sign that contract, but I would like some assurance that we're not going to be signing a contract to maintain things that are completely empty. So we are looking for some commitment from Central Bedfordshire Council to actually fund those improvement works.
Councillor Jones.
And absolutely, we shouldn't be taking on something that needs such a drastic turnover to make it look different. We really shouldn't be. Just on the perennial beddings, I went past some of them. I had to take a second glance because I realised something was different about some of them. And then I looked again, and the one on the entrance in particular, as you come in from the chalk cutting, looks really good, Kathy, really, really good. And the one in Private Gardens, the car park, I noticed as well. So they are definitely, they do stand out and they do look good. So well done.
Any other questions? No? Thank you very much, Dimmy. Thank you very much for all your hard work. Moving on, we've got Dunstable in Bloom and volunteering, and we're going to go to Kathy for this one.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Yes, so one of the projects that we're working on at the moment is to provide free floral displays for shops and businesses in the town centre. The initiative was started by Dunstable in Bloom, and we're in our third year of delivering these displays. It's been funded by the Central Bedfordshire Council Ward Councillor Grant Scheme, and this year we've got 30 baskets and 20 barrels to deliver to different sort of shops and businesses around the town centre. A lot of the preparatory work for the containers has been done by volunteers, including some volunteers from the Com Church. They're visiting students from America, and they've been a great support in terms of kind of cleaning the baskets and refreshing them. And hopefully those displays will go out throughout June to different towns, different shops and businesses within the town centre. So Anglia in Bloom, the council continue to work with Dunstable in Bloom very closely to deliver our Anglia in Bloom campaign again this year. We're working hard on that, and that includes the portfolio, our digital entries. We're starting something new this year, which is called In Your Neighbourhood, or It's Your Neighbourhood, sorry. And we've got some groups that have decided to take that initiative up. We're working on the portfolio as well, aren't we, John? Did I repeat myself? The Dunstable in Bloom theme for this year is Grow Your Own, and that's inspired by King Charles's love of organic gardening. And and so far all going well with the Anglia in Bloom campaign. The sustainable perennial beds that we've spoken about earlier, they now are all complete, and you can see them at the Amphora by Asda, at the north entrance to the town by the chalk cuts, Church Street car park, and up by the Highwaymen pub. We're hoping that those beds will establish and be sustainable in terms of needing less water. I've also started the council has started a new initiative called Dunstable Urban Gardeners, and it's in its very early stages, but what we want to do is to train volunteers to look after the many sort of floral features around the town, and that includes some of the rain gardens and the herbis planters as well. And that's actually been going really well. And that's my update. Have you got any questions?
I'd like to say first, from the with pleasure from the chair of Grounds and Environmental Services, that the amount of work that Dunstable and Bloom do, and everyone who's involved in the council with regards to everything we do with Anglia and Bloomia, it's absolutely amazing. And thank you very much, everyone who is involved. It's fantastic. And we have Councillor Atwell.
Yeah, I'd just like to query, you mentioned about the businesses which we have the forward displays delivered to the businesses. What sort of criteria is there in place for that? Do businesses have to apply for this, and also how is it made sure it's distributed around evenly?
So initially, when we started the project, we went to visit different businesses at High Street North, West Street, Church Street and High Street South. And so we have a number of businesses in all those locations who have a basket. This year we're trying something different with the barrel displays, and we've actually offered them to the quadrant. And so all the displays will be sort of in one location this year. So the intention is that over the years, you know, they'll be offered to different locations throughout the town. Last year they went to locations up as far as Westfield Road, and this year we've just Dunstable and Bloom have decided to try something different. So all the barrel displays will be in the quadrants for everybody to enjoy.
Councillor Atwell, you'd like to come back?
Yeah, is it going to be our decision then of where these barrels will be, or will it? Or is there businesses that we've approached or need to apply for how these are distributed?
As I said, initially we just approached businesses and asked them if they'd like a display, and so we went with the businesses that said they would like a display. The decisions about that were made through the people saying yes to us, and then sort of at the Dunstable in Bloom committee.
John Crawley, you'd like to come back?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was actually a Dunstable in Bloom initiative that we've supported. So Dunstable in Bloom have largely had the say as to where they go. Cathy's actually been visiting with Dunstable in Bloom members to make sure that they were happy with those locations as well. But those baskets and barrels belong to Dunstable in Bloom through the grant that they obtained from Central Bedfordshire Council. We're just supporting the project.
Any other questions for Cathy? No? Any other comments? Liz? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Cathy. Thank you for your hard work. I believe, where are we now? So, item 7, we have the purchase of an electric pedestrian sweeper, which is page 23. And that will be Demi.
Thank you very much, Chair. I hope all members had an opportunity to read the action recommended to purchase a new electric pedestrian sweeper. This equipment would be used mainly by the town rangers to help their work be more effective, especially with the new landscaping of the town centre. At the moment they are using a Cartier MIG 34 road sweeper, which is, I would call a ride-on type of sweeper with a cabin. The council has been owning this almost 8 years now. It's getting towards to the end of its lifespan, especially if it's a discontinued model. Therefore, we looked at alternative options and what to purchase and how to use. And this electric pedestrians people came up, we demoed it. We had a really good demonstration on. The rangers anonymously agreed that this would be a very efficient kit for them, and it's also electric, so it would work really well, gaining the zero net carbon in the coming years, coming decades. Any question around this equipment?
Councillor Henderson?
Thank you. I thought the case was very clear. I just wanted to ask whether there are any other pieces of equipment that needed to be replaced, and has this come to the top of the list as the priority?
Yes, that's right now. This was the top of the priority, and going forward in future committee meeting, we will present other reports which will explain what might need to consider in the future. But right now, considering how much work they spend in a town centre to ensure that everything, all the cleansing is done, and supporting CBC with it, this is why we decided to ask the members' approval to purchase this equipment.
Or did I see Councillor Hollick with his hand up?
Thank you, Chairman. It is effectively the same question, because obviously one does have a concern that almost halving the reserve, that there isn't too much in the pipeline to come later.
I have Councillor Crawley.
Thanks, Chairman. Just a minor point, just from an operational perspective. The Karcher MIC that is discontinued is difficult to get parts for. As far as I can see, looking it up briefly, is an enclosed cabin, which makes in colder weather, windier weather, slightly wetter weather, much easier and much more, I would say, pleasant to use for the grounds team, maybe. Whereas the new one looks like it's just got a stool on the back, and it's all exposed, which would be, on colder days, heading into the winter, a lot less of a pleasant experience for our grounds team or our team out there. I was just wondering if actually we've really considered the well-being of the staff that are actually going to be out there in the weather using this, and whether this is the right bit of equipment.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Yes, we do consider the well-being of our staff. It's a very high priority for us. As a matter of fact, we did demo electric equipment which was similar closed cabin, but the price was 3 times as we just asked my members to consider. So we had to compromise, and this was in agreement, and we asked our teams how do they feel about. And actually they were quite happy about this because of the maneuverability. So it's not just about being in a closed cabin, but also when you use it. And with this machine, the machine is ahead of you, so you can see much better the corners. And this is why we decided to ask approval for this equipment.
Wonderful, thank you, Dimi. I have Councillor Jones.
I've got similar concerns to Councillor Crawley that he's just raised, that if I was an operative sat on a stool going up and down the high street, bumping away for 24 hours a week, that might actually cause us some pain and discomfort to a member of staff's back over a period of time. I am a bit concerned that we aren't looking for like replacement, whether that means there is significant more money involved. I'm not convinced that this is got longevity in it. To me, it doesn't feel right that we're not giving the closed cabin option for our people. Did we not use our sweeper as well? Wasn't it a dual sweeper? And did it not use for snow as well? The one that we're replacing it from. Didn't it have ploughs on the front of it so that we had that option to use it in snowy weather as well? So are we losing a function by only having this?
Can anyone pick up that question? John?
Well, it's my understanding that this probably would cope with light snow in the way that the machine with the cabin would cope with light snow. I think the difficulty we've got, members, is that when we purchased the original item for something like £60,000+, we were in receipt of a Market Town Regeneration Grant Fund, which we're not in receipt of at the moment. So we're trying to find a solution which both accommodates the budget available and balances the needs of our staff, who would share the duties using it. It's not one person riding it around 24 hours 24 hours a week. That's one of the ways that we can manage that. We can also make sure that they've got adequate PPE available as well. So I don't think that we are completely divorcing ourselves from the sort of equipment that we had. Dimmy and I have talked about whether or not we could retain the current sweeper for some duties, and that's the decision that we've got to yet make in terms of how much we can get it repaired and how often. So it might be possible that we can still keep it for certain brush functions, but actually the suction unit's one of the biggest problems on it, isn't it, I think? Does that help at all?
Councillor Jones, you wish to come back?
Yeah, thank you. So the street cleaning work that we do with the Town Ranger Service is meant to be an enhancement to the services that Central Bedfordshire Council are asked to supply and provide the town. So do we go back to Central Beds then and ask them for a contribution towards a more robust, robust piece of equipment to help and support the enhancement to our town centre operations, because they were part of the original funding under the town centre regeneration scheme? Do we go back to them and say, because they've got a new community asset grant scheme out at the moment, is this opportunity for us to go and seek whether or not we're actually able to claim money from them and get them involved in purchasing? Because I feel we're doing a job that Central Bedfordshire Council should be doing anyway. So let's make sure that we've explored everything possible before we go down this route.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. I don't have a problem with taking that on with Central Bedfordshire. Councillor Brenner has that.
I was just going to ask, it says on here there are only 2 suppliers of this make and model in the UK. Has there been any inquiries made about the availability of parts, if it needs servicing or...?
Sorry, let me answer the question. Yes, there is availability of parts. The only reason that it's just 2 suppliers because the machinery is coming from the continent, from Europe,
Okay.
and that's the only 2 company who does sell it in the UK. But it doesn't mean that there is no available parts to it.
Sorry, I think, can I just come back on, I don't think it's for you to take it to Central Beds, Matt.
No.
I think it's for officers to take, if we want them to go to Central Beds about potential funding. We as councillors need to let our officers do those discussions and negotiations to see if there is anything. That's if members want them to. That's just my view and opinion. I think we should explore it.
Thank you, there's Councillor Atwell.
Yeah, I share what's already been said about the suitability for exposure of sitting on this in the seating. Has there been any investigations into the actual seat? Is there an alternative seat option that's available, like with a backrest or something like that? And my second part was going to be asking around, obviously we've got a figure here that's been quoted, but has any consideration, considering what Councillor Hollick's already mentioned about the impacts of the budget, for maintenance contracts and servicing, because obviously that'll be on top of this cost, and we need to think about how it's going to be maintained and serviced, and it's often much better to get a particular maintenance contract when you're actually buying something rather than afterwards, because obviously it's keeping this thing out on the road if we have bought it and protecting our investment.
Let me answer for the question about around maintenance. As with many electrical equipment, there is no combustible engine, so the maintenance costs are virtually low. I did inquire while we were doing the demoing, and this is what I was told, because I wanted to make sure that we can represent the figures. And all I was told that it's barely anything you need to do. Only the brushes, changing the brushes, which our in-house team could do. And if we would go down this road, and we, let's say, consider to sell the car here Mix 34, we already have a maintenance contract for that, which we could swap it over to the new equipment.
Thank you, Jimmy. Councillor O'Riordan.
Thank you, Chair. I just have an observation mainly. I've had an electric car for 4 years and I think, you know, it's great because of the carbon reduction. However, in the winter, it runs out of charge very quickly. When it's cold, it runs out of charge very quickly. So I wonder if we've considered that. And I know that John Crawley mentioned about us perhaps retaining the current hydraulic version that we've got with the enclosed seating area, which might help with that. But I think it's something we need to consider. And also I agree with the comments with regards to health and safety of staff and the cold during the winter in an open sweeper. I think perhaps it needs more research.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Councillor Henderson, and then I think we'll call it a close.
So I agree with all the comments that we made. I just wondered if the staff could just confirm whether there are any implications for any delays in making a decision, and or whether we need a contingency plan given we're not meeting till September, or whether it can wait till then. So that's just a...
Coming back, John Crawley.
I think it's worth reminding members, firstly, that we have run a grounds maintenance team and a ranger service for many, many years, and most of our work is done outside all of the time without a cap. That includes riding on ride-on mowers, for example, as well. So there are quite a lot of measures in place, health and safety measures in place, to ensure and protect our staff, and we wouldn't do anything that would be to the detriment of our staff. I'd like members to completely understand that. With regard to the seat, it has been ergonomically designed for regular continued use. So that element of design has been brought into this as well. And if we can keep the other machine going, that will give us an option for as long as we can. With regard to the funding, I think we have reduced the contribution to the reserve for vehicles and equipment this year, with a view to increasing it significantly next year, because we recognise that at some point Dim is going to have to bring a report to committee about vehicle replacement policy. But I do hear what members say. I wonder whether I might suggest that rather than delay until September, that the officers go away and investigate the suggestion that that you've put forward around speaking to Central Bedfordshire Council, with a view to then having a further discussion with the chair and authorising the chair, along with the town clerk and chief executive, to go ahead and purchase this item if there is no funding available from Central Bedfordshire Council or any other source. What my concern is that the longer that you delay a decision, the greater there is a risk of us not having anything that will work properly in terms of all the multifunctionality that the existing MiC 34 actually has. Did you want to add?
Just a technical point on what John's just said. So you're not able legally to delegate to the chair to make a decision, but you can delegate to me to make a decision. And quite often a committee would agree to delegate a decision to me in liaison with the chair. So I would then go and we'd regularly inform the chairman, and if we wanted to make a decision, we'd get the chairman's consent for us to make that decision, just to clarify that point.
I did say that we were going to close it. Okay, thank you.
Could we not bring a report back to full council on the 29th of June? As we've still got 20 odd days, haven't we? If we've had a response from Central Bedfordshire or an indication from Central Bedfordshire by then as to whether the feasibility of a potential grant is, we could bring it to full council.
Thank you for this. Kenson is a no. So what?
So can I
go?
Sorry,
Go ahead.
so bearing in mind the comment from Councillor Jones, perhaps the easiest thing would be to defer the decision to full council. So by full council, we can then come up with a clear recommendation for you, which might be don't know, because we can't do things quick enough, but at least here are some clear options. Whereas we are at risk of making a decision that we don't quite know where we're going to go and nobody's quite clear where it will end up, which isn't good for any of us. So if we could defer it to full council is a totally reasonable decision.
Okay, so all in favour of deferring the issue to full council on the 29th of June? Okay, all against? Brilliant. Any abstentions? No? Wonderful, that's decided. Okay. Next item on the agenda is item 8, reports from outside organisations. The only one I've got down is the CBC Development Committee, which is Councillor Katarski, and there's been nothing. Okay, so with that, item 9 is recommended in terms of Section 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. The following items will be likely to disclose exempt information relating to establishment and contractual matters, and it is therefore recommended that pursuant to the provisions of the Public Bodies Administrations of Meetings Act 1960, the public and press be excluded from the following items. Do we vote on that? Thank you, Liz, for proposing. And a second from Councillor Gurney. All in favour? Wonderful. I believe that's passed. So,
Thanks, Andy. If you could turn us off.
if we could exclude all press and public.